Hi everybody, my name's Liz Rivera. I'm the Gem State Medium. Welcome back. The question I had put up was whether or not you believe that people come back to visit, that have passed. And of course, everybody was very unanimously saying yes, they all believe that. And we've all had those experiences, which I am forever grateful for. When I was talking to my husband about all of this stuff, I think it's been a couple of weeks now, and I was trying to decide what I wanted to talk about next. And he asked if I would want to or would possibly talk about his sister when she passed away. He thought it was a very heartwarming story. So this all started back in 2015, and my husband Craig and I were still dating, so he's my boyfriend still. And he had his own place, and he had his father living with him because he had dementia and he needed some extra help. So Craig provided that for him. Craig's elderly father had a medical emergency one day, and so he had to be admitted into the hospital. And he was there for a little while, and then pretty soon they realized he needed much more care and therapy, things like that. So they moved him into a memory care facility for people with dementia and Alzheimer's, which is where he stayed. After that, Craig had a little more free time to come over and spend the night from time to time. And one night, it was a month or so later. I mean, there wasn't that much time after he'd been in the care facility. And we were sound asleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night to see Craig standing off to my right. And he was standing kind of at the end of the bed in front of my jewelry stand. And I kept looking at him, and, it's dark in my room. But I kept looking at him thinking, what in the world is he doing? Why is he standing at the end of my bed? But it was off a little bit, so I didn't, call out to him like, what's going on? And it all happened so quickly. I wake up, I see him standing there, and I'm like, why is he standing there? And then the next thing I know, I feel Craig move next to me. He was sound asleep laying, right next to me. So I hurried and turned and looked at him and looked back to see who was really standing at the end of the bed, because I really did think it was Craig. Looked an awful lot like him. And it was gone. And I laid there thinking, what in the world did, just happened? And I looked at the clock, and it was 3:30. I'm sure everybody knows that, like, if you get a phone call in the middle of the night or early morning hours, it's not good. And so, of course, he jumped up and answered the phone, and it was the memory care center phoning to let him know that his dad had passed away. And I looked at Craig and I said, I saw your dad. He was here, and he took off to go get one of his siblings and then head over to the facility in order to say his goodbyes to his dad and all of that. But at that moment, I knew I had seen his dad. And if, and I'll have to post a picture, in this video as well, but you can see how much Craig and his dad look alike. So I was seeing his dad and not Craig. So once Craig arrived at the memory care center, he texted me back probably an hour later. It's like 5 in the morning, and he messages me and says, I just talked to the staff here, and they said they figured my dad passed away around 3:30. So it was the exact same time that I had seen him standing by our bed. Obviously I saw him. Craig was sound asleep. He was obviously not there to see me or say goodbye to me. He was there for Craig. So to pass on that message, I was happy to do that so that he knew that he did stop by and say goodbye. I think from everything that we had talked about later on with Craig's siblings, that whether it was a dream or a feeling or something just off a little bit, they all seemed to have a little bit of a story of their dad stopping to visit. So it really makes me think that not only did he stop and say goodbye to Craig at the moment he passed, but he went on and stopped at the other kids' homes and said goodbye to them as well. From everybody's personal stories and what I've read from other people, and heard from other people, that is not uncommon for somebody to stop by and say goodbye once they passed. For me, like I said, I have seen my share of ghosts and people who've passed away and stuff. This one was a little bit more unique just because there would be another tragedy in their family with Craig's sister, and there was a certain dynamic to what I saw and how they kind of took care of each other. So she'd been doing, all of her therapies and the things she needed to do with chemo and radiation, or, just all the forms of help they could give her for this cancer and getting it to go away. She went to finally one of the really good hospitals, the cancer, I think it's Huntsman's there in Utah. And she was going through the process of getting some of the new state-of-the-art cancer treatments, and it seemed to be working really well. Well, this is about 6 months after Craig's father had passed away, and I saw his dad. So she'd been doing, all of her therapies and the things she needed to do with chemo and radiation, or, just all the forms of help they could give her for this cancer and getting it to go away. She went to, I think it's Huntsman's there in Utah, and she was going through the process of getting some of the new state-of-the-art cancer treatments, and it seemed to be working really well. Well, this is about 6 months after Craig's father had passed away, and I saw his dad. About another week or two later, I was at, of all places, I was at a sports bar here in town in Idaho Falls, and I was talking to my friend, just idle chit chat, having a drink and some wings, and all of a sudden I look up because something moved kind of off to the left, and mind you, there's public and people everywhere, and they were walking towards me. So I looked up just thinking maybe it's some other friend or something, that somebody we know walking towards me. And I looked over, and it was Craig's dad again, and he was walking up. There was a couple of steps. He walked up those couple steps, walked up towards the bar area, and then started walking alongside. And I was watching him the whole time thinking of, it always, it caught me off guard. It's always at the oddest places sometimes. So there was somebody standing in my line of sight that he would have had to go behind to continue to round back to come over by me. And as soon as he passed behind that person and came out on the other side, it was somebody totally different. It was a different person, but I know what I saw, and I know I saw his dad. And at that point, I'm thinking, why have I seen his dad twice in 2 weeks? And then it dawned on me, he's here, in our realm, in our space, and I'm just seeing him because he is around. So my next thought was, he's here waiting for Carrie. And my heart kind of sank because I thought, she's going to pass. So then I got to thinking, do I tell Craig? Do I say anything? It took me a couple of days of really trying to soul searching whether or not I tell him, because my thought was, is his father showing me himself? I don't know if that's right. Am I seeing his father because he wants me to relay a message to Craig that he needs to prepare, or, you know, maybe his sister's not going to make it. And I wasn't sure exactly, because he never said anything. And aside from getting the feeling she was going to pass away and he was there to be there for her, I wasn't really quite sure if the message was directly for him or if I was just seeing him because he was so near. I finally got the nerve up and decided that maybe I needed to let Craig know that I had been seeing his father and that I thought Carrie was going to pass away. And so I stopped him, you know, here in this kitchen, and I said, so I need to talk to you. I've been seeing your dad. I've seen him twice now, and I kind of think he's here waiting. And he stopped me, and almost a panicked look on his face, and said, "Don't tell me. I don't want to know." And I dropped it. I just, you know, okay, you know. So now he kind of knew, and like I said, still not completely sure if that was the right decision. You know, he did say when he said, "I don't want to know," he said, "That's wrong." Anyway, he said, "This new treatment has almost taken all of the cancer out of her lungs. She's getting better." I said, okay. So about 2 weeks later, he was called to Utah because she wasn't doing well and she was in the hospital, and they wanted everybody there for the moment that she passed away. His sister passed 7 months, almost to the day after his father passed away. And, you know, it was very, very hard, but I do believe that his dad had come back and stayed until she passed away. So for at least the 2 weeks before she passed away, I had been seeing him. And I know he was there for her, waiting when she passed. You know, it's a possibility he stayed here and around close to Craig, and Craig was close to me, so that's why I was seeing him over and over again. And I think he went with Craig to be with Carrie when she passed away. And I think from there, her father, took her to the other side. Now we're at the funeral for Carrie. And as we're sitting in the church pews, I'm watching the eulogy happen. His other two sisters were up up at the podium speaking about Carrie, and it was a very touching, very moving stories that they were relaying, and I could feel her presence in that room, which doesn't always happen at funerals. You know, I've been to a few, and some with my own biological family members, and didn't get that feeling necessarily. However, I could feel her presence, and I just thought, where is she? I can't see her. So I closed my eyes to try to see her in my mind's eye and to see where she was at. And as soon as I did, I could see both of his sisters standing up at the podium, and right next to, mind you, my eyes are closed, but I could see their silhouettes, and then I could see a third silhouette right next to them standing at the podium up on this altar that they were at in the church. And so I opened my eyes, and it was still there. And she was bright. I couldn't make out any features. So no, it wasn't like long hair or, you know, clothes, things like that, which I have seen people who passed, and including Craig's dad, who I saw after he passed, and he had regular clothes on, so it was a different appearance in the way she had shown herself. So she was just this light white being, arms, legs, head, shoulder, but no real definitive features, just this really white, bright light with almost a blue hue around it. She just kind of stood there, and I think giving strength and just being with her sisters as they recounted all their happy memories of her and some of their fun times. So when their part of the eulogy was over, Carrie's daughter came up on the altar up at the front of the church to talk about her mother. And her daughter was very pregnant at the time. Very beautiful young lady, married, had a couple other kids as well, but you could see her struggling as any person who lost their mother so young. What I thought was interesting is that as she stood there, this being moved, I'm just going to say it was Carrie because I know that's who it was. She moved closer to her daughter and just stood there. And, she's reading and talking about her mom. And there's one point where she kind of started to struggle a little bit more than she had been. And so Carrie, standing next to her, kind of moved over just a little bit away. And she lifted her arms up. It's the first time that I really saw it move. But she lifted her arms up like this. And what was really crazy and interesting was that as she lifted her arms up and she's all light, that light seemed to have a drag behind it, or how do I explain it? I know. So, 4th of July, and you have your sparklers, and you're waving them around and you're writing things and you can see the light streak behind it. That's really cool. And we always did that when we were kids. That's what it looked like because she lifted her arms up and you could see the light trail behind. What it did when she did that, even though it was slow and she lifted her arms up, it made it look like she had wings, like an honest to God angel, lifting her arms up, and she looked like a wing, like an angel for a minute with wings. And I was just awestruck by this. And then the next thing I know, she moved back from her daughter, moved backwards behind her, and then slid over directly behind her. And then her arms went down and she moved into her daughter. And her daughter and finished reading it and didn't break down. It was seriously like her mom had just, given her this big hug and kind of held her together, held her up, gave her that strength that she needed at that moment. And I thought, what a tribute to a mother's love, for her daughter and getting her through this. It still bothers me. It doesn't bother me. It gets me choked up just a little bit because it was so, I've never seen anything like that before or since. I don't know what else to say about it other than that was an incredible moment. And I thought how wonderful that she did that for her daughter. And maybe that is exactly why she was there that day, where sometimes you don't see your family member always at a funeral or something, or if they do, they stand back and watch. But I really think she was there. She was there to support her daughter and get her through this really rough time, especially being pregnant, you're emotional anyway. You always look to your mother for help, you know, especially if you have other children that are small, and you know, she wasn't going to be there. But her mom was, and she was there regardless. I'm grateful that my husband wanted me to share this story about his family. You know, I hope it puts people more at ease knowing that when someone passes, you know, a lot of times they'll stop by to say goodbye, even if you're not awake and see them. Craig may never have known had he not been hanging out at my house and I saw his dad that night. He might not have known that his dad was here waiting for his sister, you know, which for me provides a little bit of comfort knowing that there was somebody there for her, and that she didn't go to the other side alone. Although we know that most of our relatives do come, from everything that we've heard, and people who have had near-death experiences, they talk about their loved ones, you know, seeing them. So, you know, just know that those things do happen, that we will be visited, and that there is somebody there when it's our turn to go to the other side. Everything's not dark and scary about the paranormal. You know, sometimes it's very beautiful and comforting. I hope that's your takeaway from this experience that I had. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this video has helped. I hope it helps you understand that there is someplace else that we go, that we have loved ones that show up when it's time, that they come to say goodbye, and they are there for us when we need comforted. Sometimes they just show up to see what we're doing. So I hope this video has helped bring a better understanding and maybe a little comfort to some people. I hope you guys have a great holiday, even though it'll probably be very quiet and subdued, but you guys all take care, and I will see you soon. I'll talk to you later. Bye.